Recently, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the review of 368 grazing reserves across 25 states in the country. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu said in a statement that the president gave the order based on the recommendations of a committee chaired by the chief of staff to the president. Mr. Shehu said the committee also recommended the collection of field data on the grazing routes to assess levels of encroachment, stakeholder engagement, and sensitization. That statement again brought to the fore issues around the grazing reserves, or routes rather, in the country, which has been quite controversial. Governors and some other Nigerians have kicked against grazing reserves, insisting that herders should establish ranches instead. Joining me is Public Affairs Analyst Daniel Akinlami. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, we have been for decades searching for an end to this issue of farmer-herders clashes. And we saw what has gone on in recent times with regards to that. And now the president is saying that let's begin to review about 368 grazing routes, which before now the southern governors had said that we have a ban on open grazing. This is our stand. And, you know, some other groups of the north also supported the stand of these southern governors. And there were even some governors who said, we have species. You know, you herders can come over. But the president is insisting that there has to be, these routes have to be, you know, looked into in 25 states. And then the governors are saying, but the law is on our side. The Land Use Act has, you know, vested us with the powers to determine what is done with our land. We have to be in support of whatever it is that is going on our land. When you look at what is going on, what's your perception or perspective to this matter?
Well, I think we shouldn't have been here having this controversy
in the first place.
How
if so?
All the parties involved in this agenda, the governors, those in the presidency, and the other stakeholders, if all the parties will pause and look at the provisions of the law. Now, the most important instrument guiding us in this dispensation.
The government that is in person of the president is not aware of what the law states. Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is this. We need to look critically at the position of our laws. And I'm referring to the 1999 Constitution. Now, this also affects the people advising the president. Now, the provision in the 1999 Constitution favor the governors on the Land Use Act.
Right.
They have the power on the management of land in their various states. And now, this issue of grazing routes, the executive order or the gazette will probably have a serious clash that will end up in court for litigation, even to Supreme Court. Now, we shouldn't even be having this controversy if we really care about the state of the provisions in the 1999 Constitution. As we're talking right now, there is no provision in this Constitution for the grazing routes. But there is provision for Land Use Act that empowers the state government to determine how the land administration will go in the state. So if we truly want to have a peaceful approach to this, all parties begin to need to look at the legal aspects of the
Which
agenda.
is what the governors are saying. But when you talked about a clash earlier, when you say a clash, what do you envisage?
Now, with what we have on ground and the latest developments on this committee that submitted the report to the president, we're heading towards a very big litigation between the federal power and the states. And that is what is ahead. Now, it's very difficult to place the grazing routes in this today's Nigeria in this time and age, 2021. The last time we had the grazing route law was in the 60s, I think 64, 65. And it was under the former Northern Nigeria region.
Yes, it was the Northern Grazing Route law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then the other regions did not practice grazing route. They had their own animal husbandry and ranching arrangement. Southwest did not practice
it was basically for that region.
Yes. And the other regions too didn't practice it. So now for you to bring that law back now, or bring that program back, is strange to the Constitution. The 1999 Constitution has overridden that law. The power now is in the hand of the governors. So it's going to continue to be controversial because the foundation for this program is shaking. The legal backup is not strong. Now, if you give an executive order or gazette, on what foundation is that order? On what law? Now, how do you prosecute people who default or who did not obey the order?
Yes.
Without any law, there can be no punishment for any act. Because it's the law that you violate. So that is where the question is. So the people advising the president actually has a lot to look at. Because if you want to push this agenda, it should have even been safer if you get some of the states that were under the former Northern Nigeria that practice grazing routes then in
that
the 60s.
Adopted it at the time.
If you get them, rally those states to adopt it as a law in their state assemblies, it's easier for this to be practiced in those states that so desire now to have grazing routes than federal government pursuing it. Federal government does not have any power to enforce the grazing route on any state in today's 2021 based on 1999 Constitution. Federal government only has a power over FCT. So they need to consider this. There are some of these issues that if they allow the stakeholders to explore the legal means that's available, some of these things will be bounced out.
There are those who think that it will stretch the Constitution.
Definitely. But I see it that in the days to come, the governors will still head to that direction. This decision will be challenged. You don't forget that executive order is just an administrative order. It's not a permanent instrument of administration.
Absolutely.
Another government can come and reverse it.
Yeah.
So, but the law is an eternal instrument until any time is amended.
Do you see that happening, perhaps? Do you think perhaps the government might want to go in that direction?
It's going to be difficult with the provision in the 1999 Constitution for amendment. Because you will need two-thirds of the state assemblies to approve whatever.
So that's a longer route
that want to become law. So it's going to be difficult. You have already 17 states that is enforcing ban on open grazing. But the ridiculous part of this whole thing is the fact that this same federal government 2 years or 3 years ago, in 2018, started a program called National Livestock Transformation Plan, which also embraced ranching.
Yes. And
the 36 state governors keyed into it. In fact, some have been collecting some funds to implement some aspect of that program, either in ranching or some other animal husbandry projects. Then for federal government now to make a U-turn and start pursuing another agenda, because what that 2018 program stood for is to modernize the sector. You know, and provide support for the state government that some of these clashes created by these farmers, herders, things can be reduced. But here we are again now. This is like a policy somersault on the part of the federal government. So we need to really look at the legal aspect very well. And this is the challenge for those in the presidency. So this depends on the people that are advising the president.
There are also those who think that there seems to be the kind or the level of resistance that this is getting is because of some political underpinnings. I wonder if you also see that.
Well, I actually don't want to go to that line because either there is political interest in the north or in the south. It does not invalidate the fact that you need a legal instrument to carry out
to back
this kind
whatever it
of
is
program. Yes. So if you play yourself to the hands of your political opponents without having your own work done properly, because this is being built on nothing. You cannot build anything on nothing. There's no legal instrument in Nigeria Constitution today that can back this gazette or the executive order up. What is the punishment for people who do not obey this order? There is no provision.
Right.
So how do you implement this program? Now it's looking like something that has to be forced on the people's throat, down to their throat, that they have to swallow by force, by fire. So you cannot run a government policy by this.
If it is, in your words now, forced at the end of the day, what do you see happening? Because you mentioned earlier that on some of these routes that the government is trying to look into as we speak, there are structures, some have roads, so many things, development has taken place. But eventually, if it has been forced, what's the picture?
Well, I see ahead there will be serious litigation.
Aside from litigation.
And aside from that, the state governments are already enacting laws in their national state assemblies. And they will stand by their laws too. So to avoid the commotion and the confusion, definitely this has to end in Supreme Court at the end. It will go from the Federal High Court up to Supreme Court. So we have several cases now that the state governors are challenging the federal government. Especially the latest one on the
PIA.
Yes, PIA, and then the return of the looted funds.
Yes.
That the state government ought to have a share in those looted funds. So, and several other ones like that. So this will also go in that direction soon in the days to come.
Right. Let's get perhaps your final word and on especially how we can resolve this issue of farmer header clashes. If we are still having this back and forth, some other persons do not want to embrace ranching. I mean, what is the way forward, really?
What is obvious right now is the fact that most of the leaders and stakeholders are not sincere.
Oh, insincerity is,
insincerity
is at the heart of this.
Is at the heart of this whole thing. Don't forget about 3 or 4 years ago, all the stakeholders came together. 36 state governors agreed to ranching in different respects, apart from the federal government's National Livestock Program plan. They all saw the need for it, and the federal government was also in the line to fund some of the activities. Then the stakeholders too, the Northern Governors Forum, Southern Governors Forum, even Mietiala at some point has endorsed.
Absolutely, yeah, we established that earlier.
Yes, the modern ranching. So because it's the way out of this whole crisis. And it's not just going to be a one-way thing. People should just open up their mind for this new approach. Yes, you can go to any state to do ranching, get land, pay for land, maintain your livestock
that's the
properly.
process that some of them are saying is too cumbersome to, to get involved. It doesn't just happen in a matter of days or something. That is why they are pushing for the reopening of these grazing routes.
Well, I just believe if we all open up our mind to the opportunity of resolving this crisis, we should work towards encouraging the ranching system to pick up. Now, what we have now is that we make 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward.
Right.
So there are state governments that have keyed into the ranching program. Let government give them support. Let the ranching program even pick up. Let's see how it turns out.
Right.
Yes, it has been identified as the best that can resolve some of these crises. Then let's move in that direction. Let's see how the states are faring. Don't forget that some states in the north are asking for people to come down there, even Kano.
Yes.
Asking the
elders
to come, they have lands. They have embraced ranching. So these are simple ways that we should be looking at to improve on this system, instead of going back to what was obtainable in 1960s. Most of those places now, they get the routes have changed. The population has increased. What was the population of Nigeria then in 1960s? Even the then northern region, what was the population then compared to now? Most of those routes now, they are buildings and properties are then crushed. So for us now to now go back to that era, to take the country back to that era, that we want to map out some certain route for the livestock and all those things, it's uncalled for.
One key thing you mentioned is the aspect of sincerity, addressing this from the point of view of sincerity and ensuring that all stakeholders come together to see how we can move forward. It's in the interest of the country at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's not about one man or the other. It's about the interest of the country. Thank you so much, Public Affairs Analyst Daniel Akinlami, for your time. All right, let's tell you now that veteran actor Victor Olautan is dead. Victor Olautan was born in Lagos in 1952, and he began acting at the age of 15 through membership of a theatre group, Lagos. He came into public limelight in 2013 after his leading role in Tinsel, a Nigerian soap opera. And may his soul continue to rest in peace.